Now near the end of the video, a viewer, Mark, let me know about filing claims. It's a scenario I never considered before because I never ran into it. Okay, it's time to go over the January 2024 eBay standard envelope analysis. This is where I go through what I sold, paid and shipped in eBay, and I pick out 100 random mailings to buyers that bought something that went through eBay standard envelope. Could be a postcard, first day cover, whatever is covered under that thing, and I mailed it out that way. I checked the ESU number, the scanning number, and I looked for 4 different trackings. We'll get into the details. Had a lot of storms in January, a lot of winter storms. Alabama had a lot of ice. Down south, a lot of delays. Post office trucks couldn't go. So I made sure I covered the whole month. I didn't have any refunds, or we'll get into that, but it didn't affect me hardly, at all with anything. No requests, where's my postcard and stuff like that. So it wasn't too bad. And we'll see the average number for the post office that I did too. One thing in January 2024 that came about was the new post office rates. They were effective January 21st. eBay standard envelope increased the rate by 1 penny across all 3 weights. So your 1 ounce eBay standard envelope is now 64 cents, 2 ounces 88 cents, and 3 ounces $1.12. I'm not going to increase my prices for a penny. I'm just going to absorb that. It's not that big of a deal for me for 1 penny. Out of 100 cards, how much is that? It's very minor increase here. So just take a look at that as it goes through and see what you're charging for shipping and what it actually costs. You don't want to be under that. Now near the end of the video, a viewer, Mark, let me know about filing claims. It's a scenario I never considered before because I never ran into it. So make sure you're around when I get in, after I go through the details. I'm going to talk about Mark's email and how it brought to light something I didn't even consider. And I think I know how it works, the rules they have to go by, and that's why it is. But I've never had, and all the time I've put claims and stuff, and I've never had this, and he opened my eyes to this. So stick around for that. Now eBay was 90% in 3 of the 4 scan areas this month, and they had 3 no scans. 3 envelopes still didn't have a scan anywhere. Origin, destination, out for deliver, or delivered. Nothing. It's still, and the cards still make it. It's interesting how it can go through all these machines at different places and still not be uploaded to eBay, or eBay gets it and they don't parse the information correctly to us on the website. Now when scans don't occur, it causes us more work. We have more conversations with buyers. In the beginning of eBay standard envelope, it was a lot, but it's kind of calmed down. I've had a few customers over time still don't know how it works. I can't find it says delivered, it's not here. I have a little canned response I send to them for that, but it's very few nowadays than it was before. So I don't use that as often as I used to. But I did a little thing I show in this analysis as I do every month. I do this at the first of every month or the last month. It just shows you a real high level of how I think it works. A lot of technical stuff to it. It does have ESE still in there when I used to sell on ESE, because ESE, you can use this type of letter tracking. This is not just eBay standard envelope. This has been out there for a long time for the post office. There's letter track, there's ESE uses it, Macari uses it, different places use that barcode. eBay just branded it eBay standard envelope and put their little twist on it. Best thing I think ever happened for postcards. We used to mail out with a label and a stamp. Now we have just something a little bit more. Not 100% yet, but it's still growing. It's matured, but now they need to put the icing on the cake and get these scans correct so we don't get these calls from these customers. So I'm going to go ahead and show this little clip real quick. If you've seen it before, you can skip through it, and then we'll get into the details of the 100 scans and where I come out. Here is a slide I'm going to bring up on the big screen. This is just the process in my head on there, not real detailed, layman terms. I don't know how everything works with this. I can speculate from my IT background, my technical background, but there are so many different ways to do it. But in a nutshell, this should explain to anybody how it works. So the first box there is you got eBay and Etsy platform. They're connected across multiple data centers and stuff like that. They're not in the same one. That's why it's got the dotted line there. They're two separate companies, two separate platforms, two separate programs, applications, and stuff like that. They're not shared. But I just put them in a box to make it easier. When someone buys a postcard from either eBay or Etsy, it goes to the post office. The post office then sends data to eBay or Etsy in some way, format, a file, web services, some integration is going to go up and going to come down. Either eBay and Etsy picks it up or directly goes into those platforms if they have shared access. So that's your scans. When it hits the post office, it goes back and forth into the tracking on eBay and Etsy. If everything is successful with the delivery, then you got a happy customer like at the end here. Even though the scans are not happening, most of the time the customer gets the card and they're happy. That's it. That's how easy it is, but there's a lot of technical pieces involved. One person makes a change somewhere, don't tell the other one, or some kind of transmission, pieces of equipment that doesn't go through firewalls, all this other stuff. There's a lot of stuff people don't know about in a setup like this. It's just not as straightforward as people talk about. I've heard it on YouTube where people talk about servers and all this other stuff. Professionals don't speak out of their area. I have a technical background, but I don't speak about everything they have because I don't know. And we'll never know because it's privacy and different things. There's so much data being transferred for eBay from different places and people pulling stuff. All those connections have to be made and kept up and monitored. So if one piece goes down, then what does it affect? It's not as straightforward as people think it is. Now for the technical people working on it, they understand that piece, but the other person might not understand the other piece. So it's a lot of different teams probably working on it. Now let's get into the details of the chart that I keep. I start this and I just randomly go through, pick out 100 as I go through my paid and shipped on eBay on the page. I just pick out the SKU number, I make sure I do the label and stuff like that, and you're going to see how I break it down. So I tracked 100 random mailings for January 2024. Here's the chart. Now the different columns here I'll walk through real quick. The state is the ending destination. I like to put that on there just to see if there's a problem with the state, if there's a huge number or whatever. So I grab that out of the tracking if it was delivered. And then the next one is the label. That's my control. I do that. That's 100%. Always 100 listings, 100 label, 100 mailings. So that's the control, 100. Then the next one is origin. That's where it hits the first distribution center. eBay standard envelope cannot be scanned by your carrier or at the post office. It's only done on the high-speed scanning machines at the distribution centers. Also, it does not require an acceptance scan because of that. So don't look like a package. You want to get it scanned to meet your requirement to scan on time. eBay standard envelope only requires a scan somewhere through the route. So don't think that you have to get an acceptance scan like you do with packages. There's a little learning curve with eBay standard envelope, but it's not difficult. Next one is destination I look for. That's where it's going through. It's going through, I created the label, put it in the mailbox, it got picked up. That night it hit the distribution hub, got an origin scan. Now it's out there in the route going to the next post office, and that's the destination scan. That tells customers and myself that it's still moving through the system. When that stalls, the customers don't know what's going on. Then it hits out for delivery. I put delivery here just to shorten the column title up there, but that's out for delivery. That's usually at one of the last distribution centers, and then the next one, the all-important delivered scan, is when it hits the last distribution center, not the house. With a package, your package is scanned when the carrier delivers it, or you pick it up at the post office, it's scanned. With eBay standard envelope, since the carrier cannot scan it, their wand doesn't work with that barcode. Only the distribution centers, high-speed machines can do it. That's the last place. So once it says delivered, it could be 1 or 2, 3 days before it gets to the house. Depends how rural it is and where it is, how big the city is. So when it says delivered, the customers need to know it'll be a couple more days probably before it gets there. Once they go through it once or twice, then they understand how it works, but they're used to packages. And a lot of sellers that way too, and they get upset. This doesn't work. This is how it works. This is how eBay standard envelope works. It's not a package. It's not as robust. Now the last column is the average days that it did for that state, and I average at the bottom, and we'll go through that number in a second. But we did have a couple. We had one in Oregon. It was 10 days for a mailing. Oregon and Montana and Washington is the worst for me, in Texas. And also the East Coast, since it's so congested out there. A lot of times when it's going to New York and stuff like that, it takes longer. And that's just the way the system works. And people should be aware of that. We had one in Washington, 8 days, 7 days for New Mexico, 7 days for Delaware, 8 days for Arizona, 8 days for California. It's probably more on the Midwest and South where we had the storms, the winter storms and stuff. It's where a lot of those delays were. And that's to be considered during the winter. Now let's walk through the bottom here. So at the bottom there was 100 labels created. That's the control. That's what I did. I know that's 100%. Origin scan was 88%. They missed 12. Now remember, no acceptance scan is required. So how can the first hub not pick this up? I still don't understand. Next one is destination scans. When I look through these, they missed 5. It was 95%, which was better than I think the last 3 months. Then delivery, out for delivery, was 91. How do you go from 88, 95, 91, all these weird numbers? To me, it feels like it's more the information's getting to eBay, but eBay is not populating correctly. That's where I've always fell and if I had to point a finger. I think it's not being... They get the information from the post office, all these different points, but eBay is getting the information but not parsing it correctly. I would have to say it's there. I'm still standing on that, because I don't know how it all works, never will. I don't want to speculate, but just from my understanding, that's what it looks like, because there's too many machines out there that this goes through, and there's only one common point is eBay when it gets it. That's my deduction. Then delivered, the all-important delivered. That's when it's delivered, the customer knows it'll be a couple more days and stuff like that. 91%. They missed 9 again. So at least at least they're in the ballpark, 90%. No scans. I had 3 that didn't get any scans through the system at all. How can that happen? I'm not for sure. I couldn't tell you. Request, where's my postcard? I have a video about that. Talks about where's my postcard and why is it there, and I show you what I do with a little canned response that I send to people in this video here. You can check that out on your leisure. And then claim sent. I didn't have any claims to send. I got all my claims for last year. I made about $30 back last year in claims, so there was none this month. But I also have another graph that I keep for year to date. And if you've been following this, you know how it builds. But here it is right here. Now, the line's going from at the top down to February. That's because it's the first month and there was no data. Everything was stuck at the top at just a dot. It didn't really show. So I put 0 for February so it'll show it going down. But you want to look at the top dotted line. That dotted line is right under 90%. That's where I feel if these scans go under 90%, it causes us more work because customers are concerned. And they're going to send us messages. They're going to open cases. If it stays above 90%, that seems to slow down. It still should be 100%. These are machines. I still don't understand what's going on. Yeah, you're going to have a blip here and there, but the consistent under 90% last year on certain scans, I don't understand it. But if you notice, eBay Right now it doesn't show real well, but as the year goes out, you'll start seeing a trend on each one of these different colored scans. But everything's up in the 90%. It's 88% for origin. It's still close there. So it wasn't a bad month for the storms we had, but it still needs to go up. They still need to work on it. Now for the post office, I also track the average days. They usually, all last year, they ran, except for April, I think it was, they ran 6 days. They ran 5 days. Now with the storms and the winter and the weather, they ran 6 days. I thought that was going to be higher. I really thought it was going to be 8 to 9 days. But this came in at 6 days. I think that's better than expected for me. So it's at 6 days. Now one thing about eBay standard envelope that a lot of people say, well, I'm going to do ground advantage and stuff like that. Well, no one's going to pay $5 for a $4 postcard or $5 postcard to ship it. So if you use eBay standard envelope, what kind of insurance I got? Well, there is. There's get your money back is the video I did about putting claims in. If someone doesn't get their postcard and you use eBay standard envelope, after 30 days, before 90 days, you can submit a claim to the process in that video and get your money back. I've gotten over $100 in the last 2 years back. I have no problem refunding somebody that puts a case in or says I didn't get my postcard. There's a little things you got to work through and grab a couple screenshots for them, but that's how it works. Now there's one thing about the claim process that never crossed my mind after doing this ever since it came out. And Mark sent me an email, a viewer. And I'm going to walk through that real quick, and I'm basically just going to read his email on the screen, and you'll get the gist of it, because Mark explains it very well. I don't think I can paraphrase this down or anything like that, but when you have when a buyer buys multiple cards, how do you submit a claim? Mark was thinking probably the same way I would, but there's a twist to it. So let's walk through this email real quick, and it might open your eyes on how it works. And if anybody's got any insight on this from Mark and me, let me know. Now his name is Mark and my name's Mark. Best name in the world. So Mark, several times you have talked about filing a claim for lost or damage when using eBay standard envelope. Usually when I refund a customer for a lost item, I just forget about it and move on. Yes, a lot of people do that, but they have a program out there. Let's use it. Get your $4, $5, $6 back. Under $20 and not over $50, you can get that money back if you do it right. Usually when I refund a customer for a lost item, I just forget about it and move on. After watching your videos about this topic, I decided to try it for myself. The first claim I submitted was reimbursed very quickly. Yeah, usually within 48 hours, if I did it right, I have my money in my PayPal. No problem. Recently I had a buyer whose shipment was damaged in the mail. The envelope contained 3 postcards, all of which were damaged. I submitted my claim, but was only reimbursed for 1 of the cards, 1 out of 3 on the envelope. That caught my eye. I'm sitting there, that's interesting. I contacted the people who handle claims and asked about it. And I think this is a third-party company. That's why you have to fill the form out. I think it's not eBay. I think they contract this out, and they have rules to go by. They told me I had not used the combined shipping option properly and was only entitled to reimbursement for 1 card. The buyer had purchased 3 cards and had paid for them individually. So you got an order number, order number, order number. So you got 3 different order numbers, and you'll notice here he put them all under 1 tracking number. I was not able to combine the shipping costs. I shipped all 3 cards in 1 envelope, and when I prepared my shipping label, I applied the same tracking to all 3 cards, which I do often because this scenario happens frequently. Yeah, I've done the same thing. When I have a person, a lot of the people buy postcards, they just buy, then they buy another one. Instead of putting it in their card, they don't know how to use the card. And I'm not here to teach them how to do that. I just combine them when I see them. I used to be able to combine shipping regularly, but it seems like eBay is requiring buyers to pay for all items instantly, which disables the combined shipping option. Now, I don't use the combined shipping option and all that stuff. I just look at my orders, and I can tell Stephanie bought this, 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 and I'll pick them out. So I'm not 100% sure about the combined shipping option. Do you have any insight into changes in the combined shipping option? And have you had any instances shipping multiple cards under the same tracking number and then filing a lost claim? Again, I don't know much about the combined shipping now. I don't use the bulk shipping. I'm not that big, and everything's right here. But I never ran into this, Mark, is what I told them. Most of my claims have been, I think all my claims have been only one card or one order. So I just kind of like, wow, this opened my eyes to this if a person does that. So I think what it is this third-party insurance company that manages this for eBay. I know they asked me to make sure that the order number, the item number, and the tracking number on the screenshots, if they can see all that in one screenshot or two screenshots that they asked for, it makes it a lot easier. The username, they can just look at the screen and they check off their little rules. eBay provides the rules to them. So if you have 3 different order numbers but one ESU number, I don't think their system or the way they have to do it, they can refund 3 different order numbers with the same ESU number. Is what if I was to train an employee to do that, that's how I would think. So if you have a person that buys all 3 different cards on 3 different orders and you put them in there and you go to file a claim, you probably will get only one refunded, is how it works. I have not, for as many as claims I put in and stuff, refunds, I don't get them that often at all, but I've never run into that. And if I did, I would probably just chalk it up. That's how it works. Maybe you could fight it, I don't know, but I've never run into it. Has any of you ran into that before? Maybe with the sports cards or whatever. But I thought it was interesting. So, and now if a person comes in and buys 3 cards and it's all under one order number, one tracking number, and it gets lost or damaged, I don't see a problem getting your $15, $20 back or whatever it was. But 3 different orders with the same tracking number, you'll be reimbursed for one, is what Mark had ran into. And as always, I enjoy your videos immensely, and thank you for all your hard work and promoting our hobby. Feel free to use my comments as you wish. Thanks, Mark. These are the types of things I really like to open my eyes, because I can't see everything and things don't happen to me. So if any insight from Mark, let us know if you ran into any other scenarios about eBay standard envelope. Thanks again, Mark. But this video here will walk you through the claim of how to do it. Might be a few differences here and there since I've done the video, but I haven't seen any. But a lot of people have gotten refunds. You just got to track it. Be a little organized on what you got. And eBay is now keeping information for what, 2 years on stuff I've got, how long it is. But as long as you keep track of the order number and know you have to do that claim after 30 days and before 90 is what the rules were. It's a lot easier now because you can go back. Where before it would fall off after 90 days, the information. Now it's there. It makes it a lot easier. But I'm going to continue to track this in 2024. I was thinking about doing this only quarterly in 2024. But I want to see if they get it above. How far can eBay bring this in the post office? Above the 90%. Or stay consistent above 90% this year. I really want to see that. I like what happened in January with all the winter weather that we had across the nation. In 6 days, I think it was better than what I forecasted. But thanks for watching. And make sure you subscribe so you see when I send these out every month and other videos that I do. And hit that little bell icon. It'll notify you. I think there's a place over here. It's the best free thing you can do for the channel to support us. Here's some fish. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.